Today's episode of the Inside EVs podcast is brought to you by E-Range EV Tyre. E-Range EV tyres are specifically engineered for electric vehicles. Using an advanced manufacturing process called liquid phase mixing, E-Range EV's EcoPoint 3 technology creates a tyre with lower rolling resistance and longer range, while offering low levels of wear and high grip. All this while staying affordable. Go to erangetires.com. That's ERANGE tires.com to find your EV's next set of tires.
Hello, and welcome to the Inside EVs podcast for June the 9th, 2023. This is episode number 166. Thanks for joining us. On today's show, we'll be talking about the debut of the Volvo EX30. GM adopts the Tesla NACS standard, and all Tesla Model 3 trims are now IRA eligible. And of course, much, much more. I'm Dominic Yoni, Inside EVs editor and forum moderator. Joining us today is the innovational Mr. Tom Malogny, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have the monumental Mr. Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, which is available on all the best podcast platforms. And of course, Kyle Connor joins us from the majestic, practically palatial halls of Photospec Studios, where he produces high voltage videos for a number of YouTube channels. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
And can I say that the news of wildfires and smoke has been making its way well and truly around the world. It's been making the news coverage here. I hope everyone there is safe and well and doing as best they can.
Yeah, we're good down here in the south, deep south.
I should hope you would be.
I missed the worst of it. My friends were all sending me pictures. I was over in Italy with Volvo, but all my friends were sending me pictures, and my flight back home was delayed by about 3 hours because of the Newark airport was so backed up because all the flights were taking longer to take off and land. But it's pretty good today. It doesn't look too bad outside. A little hazy, but not anything terrible. I think it's getting better.
That's good to hear.
Right on. So I guess we should probably kick off with some news. I'm not sure if there's been any big news in like the last day or so, but okay. I guess we'll start with that. How about this?
Yeah.
So 2 weeks ago on our show, we told you that Ford had, surprised us all and jumped on the Tesla charging standard, the NACS, the North American standing charging standard, as they call it. And and it was just kind of a matter we were kind of talking about, how long it might be before the next shoe drops, before the next company announces that they're announcing. And Tom, you had a little poll on Twitter, right?
Yeah, I ran a poll pretty much right after our show. I was of the opinion, at least, and on the show, and I said on the show 2 weeks ago that GM has to do this now, I thought they were going to be next. So I ran a poll that asking who, and unfortunately, Twitter only allows you to have 4 poll options, which kind of stinks. But I did Tesla, Rivian, GM, Rivian, Hyundai, Kia, and Stellantis. And overwhelmingly, people thought that Rivian would be next, followed by Hyundai, Kia, and then GM, and then Stellantis was last. I wouldn't have voted that way at all. I would have thought that GM first, Stellantis second, and then Hyundai, Kia, and then to me, Rivian was going to be last. But we'll see what happens next now. I fully expected either GM or Stellantis to come out relatively quickly and say, we're going to do this. They had to send that message that they care about their customers and that they care about their customers' charging experience. Maybe people that are new to EVs don't really fully understand the difference, but everybody in the EV community that owns EVs, that charges publicly, particularly Tesla owners, understands it's just a better experience. And for an OEM to ignore that, they're ignoring their customers' needs. So we talked about this, guys. We needed that one whale, and for Tesla got, Jim Farley on the hook, and the floodgates are going to open now.
Right. Kyle, unexpected. Is this who you thought would announce? Because, GM was way back, and then in Tom's results there, not a whole lot of confidence that they would really, come out, because they have a reputation for being a bit slow, a bit old school, right? Oh,
Are you sick?
I am sick, actually.
Because your voice isn't sounding great.
Right. I'm sorry.
No, sorry you're not feeling great. At the end of the day, I really didn't care who was next, but we knew someone was going to be next. And, for a company as large as GM, or at least as large as promising their electric fleet to be, I think the fate is sealed. We know the answer now. It's just a question of how long will it take everyone else to switch. And then, I just love the arguments of like Charin and all these other guys that are like, no, we need the global standard and CCS, this, that, the other. Well, it's just like, yeah, we're going to have a standard in the US now, and it's going to be the Tesla plug. And this comes right after I was talking to Pablo Desi, who's the CEO of Volkswagen America, and he was just like, no, we'll never switch. We love CCS. It's just like, we're not even considering using Tesla. And it's just like, okay, we'll talk in 2 years. See how long that takes you. Really, truly, I think, we're right now, it's just a matter of time. And to be totally honest, this is the best thing for the consumer. Let the early adopters right now take the hit of the adapters and figure all this out, because we're still very much at the very early stages of adoption of electric vehicles. And if it was going to happen, it needed to happen as soon as possible. And it should have happened 5 years ago. But, every day that went by, it was going to be harder to do this. Now that you have almost Stellantis is definitely going to be coming up next, because now it's a competitive advantage to have this, and it'll be very easy for them to do it because they're not selling any electric cars here right now. Now it's just a question of timing. How long will it take? And the big thing for me is we did a whole Twitter Spaces on this yesterday, which I thought was really kind of cool. We at the end of the day, I think Tesla will just sell an adapter to everyone and open the charging network either way. And so right now the automakers are getting in to put the port natively on their vehicles, which is great. And, getting early access to the supercharger network, which is wonderful. But I think if we look, 5 years into the future, those vehicles with CCS ports on them now will charge on the supercharger network with with an adapter. ABB just made an announcement only an hour ago or so. They're adding the Tesla connector to their offerings from the factory for ABB units. If you guys don't know, ABB is one of the leading manufacturers of DC fast charging equipment. So now that opens up the opportunity for charge point operators to buy equipment with the Tesla handle on it natively, which everyone's like, oh, why didn't EVgo just put, high power Tesla connectors on rather than the stupid CHAdeMO adapter thing? Well, they just couldn't. No one made Tesla cables. No one had a charger with a Tesla option. They want to sell electricity. They don't care what the heck the cable is. They just want you to be able to pull up to their stations, plug in, and for them to sell you their product, which is electricity. And now that's going to be a lot easier for CPOs to support vehicles with the Tesla connector. Martin, in Europe, this is not even a consideration. You're stuck with CCS. Not necessarily a bad thing because you're using CCS2. No question that the Tesla connector is way more elegant, has much higher thermal limits. And, I think the main issue right now with this is Teslas do not support a high voltage system architecture. But talking on the Twitter Spaces yesterday with Brandon Flash and a few others, it sounds like maybe just a reconfiguration change, and those can support a high voltage architecture. As soon as that happens, Hyundai Kia can be in, Lucid can be in, and we're done. Yeah. What's the conversation in Europe about this?
No, there will be no change. We're at 3 global standards now: NACS, CCS2, and GBT and CHAdeMO, which are becoming Xiaoji, if that's how I meant to say it, which is again, it's pretty future-proof and backwards compatible, and that'll be China and maybe Japan. I don't know, but and that's it. That's it's so interesting to have some skin in the game on something like this, because VHS versus Betamax, well, I didn't really. I mean, I was born in '78, so I kind of cared because Dad had a big VHS collection of films that I used to like to watch that he'd taped off the telly. Convoy was my favorite, and so I was like, I hope Betamax doesn't win because we've got a VHS player. And laser disc or DVD, I didn't care. Blu-ray or HD DVD, I didn't care. The console wars, well, they can kind of coexist together. This was the first kind of big standards thing. What I actually genuinely cared. I genuinely want consumers and drivers of electric vehicles to be using the best connector. The best connector is the NACS connector. As you say, it's more elegant. It is much easier to use, but some of that is clouded a little by the Tesla experience in that you just plug it in and it just starts working. Like, it handshakes amazingly quickly and it just always works. And so I need to be careful that I don't cloud that a little bit. We need to make sure, well, we'll see how it works with Ford and GM and everyone now, because the software, as one of our commenters said, the software is what makes it work. But I'm so pleased that that's it. We've got 3 standards around the world now. Car makers, all car makers, everyone that I talk to at automakers, they just want to know where we're going. Now, some of them say certain things for politicians, for certain reasons, because they're arguing their case. But if you talk to the CFOs of those companies, they just want to know where we're going. So they just want to know the UK is banning petrol and diesel in 2030. EU, Norway, 2025. It's not really a ban. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's effective. EU, 2035, everywhere. US, the IRA, has given a clear... all these companies want is just a clear direction of travel, because 5 years and 10 years in car world is the blink of an eye. It might seem like a long time away, but it's like 10 years is nothing in car making. And so they just want to know. And now we know. 3 standards around the world. It's brilliant. And they can make cars with 3 different connectors. Tesla already do. It's not a big deal. Off we go. I love it. It's such good news.
And Kyle mentioned that he talked to Volvo CEO, and he was kind of like, "No, we're digging our heels in with CCS."
No, that was Volkswagen CEO.
Volkswagen. I'm sorry.
I think Volvo will switch.
So here's the thing. I missed that. I was
you
just
were there
out
with me when we talked to the Volkswagen dude.
100%. Yeah. Well, we kind of knew that, and I that's my mistake. I missed that. So Kyle, did you talk to them at all when you were out there? You got there. You were there before I was. Did you talk to Volvo at all about connectors? Because I had
the right guy.
I had the opportunity to talk to Bjorn Arnwald, the chief commercial officer, at a roundtable discussion, and I asked him point blank about that, and his answer was, "We're a premium brand, and we want to offer a premium ownership experience in all regards of vehicle ownership." So my answer was, okay. I don't think it's debatable that the Tesla charging experience is the premium charging experience. Are what you saying is that you're considering, adding NACS or doing something like that? And he said, "Tom, we're considering everything."
Well, they're going to do it. Just look at, as soon as we saw the specs on EX90, that it was 250 kilowatt charging on a 400 volt system architecture. We knew that the only chargers that can match that in our market is a Tesla supercharger, because you need more than 540 amps, which is the highest publicly available CCS equipment. And talking to Volvo over time, that's like, it's just going to happen.
Well, now, the EX30, you're talking about 250?
No, EX90.
EX90,
right,
I'm sorry. Yeah,
okay.
I'm still stuck on the.
No hearing working today.
No, it's not these. I got these crappy things that are buzzing when I put them on. But because I was a little surprised the EX30 was limited at 153 kilowatts. That was we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But
small battery.
Yeah, it's not that small. It's almost 70 kilowatt hour. So
it's okay. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So Dominic, you own a vehicle with the North American charging standard, which I've kind of not wanted to call it that because it wasn't until now. Right. I call it whatever you want. I like the Tesla connector, NACS, cool. It's the best one. You own a vehicle with the best connector. You've used superchargers with this connector. At the end of the day, the public charging experience with this connector will not change. It will do nothing for the public experience because yes, we do have cable issues right now, which leads to probably 30 to 40% of our DC fast charging problems out there, cable cooling issues, people running them over, damaging them. That's not really going to change. Perhaps it will lead to higher quality cables if everyone can redesign what they're working on, or if Tesla can even sell cables directly in different cable lengths. This could be huge.
Mhm.
But what is your opinion on having cars have access to the supercharger network? Because that is where the magic is in these offerings. It's not so much the plug type. Adapters will go either way. Certainly, it's a little bit of a pain, but it's the access to the supercharger network that is the big deal. That's where you get the premium charging experience that Tom was talking about. You own a Tesla, you supercharge it at least frequently, you've taken it on trips. What is your opinion of seeing other cars plugged into superchargers?
Well, personally, I'm like all about the electrification of automobiles, so I think it's great. Personally, if a Kia EV6 shows up at the Tesla supercharger and takes up the spot, that's great. But I think really the automakers and need to. I don't know what the deal is with them, if because they haven't really said what the terms of their different deals, like the GM deal or the Ford deal, are. So I'm not sure how much money they're paying for this opportunity for the use of the network, but they really need to invest a whole lot of money now in expanding that network, I think.
And I think maybe even beyond that, don't invest in Tesla. Just Tesla should sell the charging equipment so these automakers can help CPOs install Tesla charging equipment, whether that's version 4 charging, because that's right around the corner, maybe just a couple months away. Again, all version 4s right now are just version 3s with version 4 dispensers. And soon, very soon to start in the US, is my understanding. The best thing that can happen is Tesla can match demand of charging hardware. They can sell that publicly with their own native connector and let other people install the best charging equipment on the planet.
Yeah, I don't know. See, it's a bit of a gold rush. It makes sense for Tesla to have as much stuff in the ground as possible, because then they can make some revenue off of charging for electricity, be it just a little bit. There's a future revenue down the road forever. So
Well, yeah, you can get carbon credits. There's a lot of reasons to install DC fast charging with high utilization.
sure. Um, yeah,
But
I'm
they're
not
not
really sure.
getting a lot of those advantages doing what you just said, Kyle, by just selling their cable and letting another network get it. So
Right.
it'll be interesting to see if that is what happens, or if they try to, mostly control the business, and use
that's how we'll know if they're in it
Yeah.
for the profit or if they're in it for the true advancement of EVs. If they're saying, if Elon's on the Twitter space saying this is great for advancing the mission, we want everyone to drive, you got to sell your equipment.
Yeah, I think that'd be a smart move. I don't know if he will or not, because Tesla will do things the Tesla way. But
For good and bad, though. I mean,
Right.
think of the progress they've made doing it the Tesla way. Same as Apple, really. Of these companies that they look around at the competition and go, "That's nice for you." I don't think Tim Cook loses much sleep about Android, and so they'll at Tesla they will do what they do for good and bad. And when I mean bad, it's if they want to retain so much control over this. Same conversation we've had 2 weeks ago. I've got no answers in the last 2 weeks. Not really asked many questions, to be honest with you. But I'd love to know the deal that Ford and GM and now all the others are going to do with Tesla, because it's inconceivable to me that Elon Musk will wake up one morning on the wrong side of the bed and throw all of the balls in the air and change all the rules. There will have been so many guarantees laid down. It's not open source. It's not like it's a charging standard with a standards body, and somebody from every car maker represented on this body. So it's Tesla's sandbox, and the worry is that Elon Musk just one day goes, "They're my toys, you're not playing with them anymore." But that's not going to happen. Ford and GM won't have sold themselves down the river and not have thought about this, obviously. And so I'd love to know the deal that's been done. I mean, they might want to share some details with investors at Investor Day and things, or they might have to answer investor questions. The publicly traded companies can't dodge as much as private companies sometimes, but if they'll ask the question like, "What's the deal you've done with Elon?" And
And I also think, Martin, the companies aren't going to expose themselves to that type of possibility where Elon can just, as you said, wake up one day and change the rules. I don't think we're going to just see these companies transition just to NACS. I think if we get to that point, it's going to be a little further down the road. I think we're going to see cars with two different charge ports for a little while, just to make sure this all works well. I don't think that what we're seeing here is everybody is just switching over to NACS now. It's going to be allowing their customers to use every type of charger, whether it's through an adapter. I don't think there's going to be native NACS and not native J1772 and CCS on these vehicles. I think for a while, they're still going to be putting that on. Maybe after 4 or 5, 6, 7 years where they're comfortable with how the adoption's gone, and say Electrify America and EVgo, they all have NACS connectors on all their equipment. And at that point, they'd say, okay, we're going to lose this old appendage, the J1772 CCS port. We don't need that anymore. But we'll see. There's still a ton of questions to be answered. But I don't see these companies just immediately saying, okay, we're just kicking CCS J1772 off our vehicles. If customers want to use that, they can go buy an adapter. I don't think that's going to be how this happens yet.
But why not, though? Because look at a Model 3, look at a Model S today. I have a Model S, Tom, as you know. I can take that car. I can plug it into anything. I can plug it into a CHAdeMO charger, which no one has anymore, but I can still do it. I can plug it into a CCS charger with a very cheap, very nice adapter, and I can plug it into superchargers. What company is going to get access to the supercharger and say, oh, I don't know if this is going to work? That's the best charging network out there. I think it's all in. I really don't think we're going to see dual ports. I think with the NACS connector, you get the ability of all ports in one just with an adapter, and the adapters are cheap now.
And what happens to all the research and development that all these companies are doing on vehicle to grid, like what I have behind me here? So they're just abandon the people that invested in that technology.
But why would that change? Because it supports vehicle to grid. It's just the Tesla cars don't.
Well, but the equipment.
What do you mean? You just change the cable. It's the same communication.
I don't think you can just swap this cable out for a Tesla cable. Well, you wouldn't be able to because it doesn't have separate DC pins. But the DC pins on the Tesla adapter go AC and DC.
Right. So it would just choose DC out.
I don't know if that will work, Kyle.
But also most vehicle to grid will be AC out with a home inverter rather than DC out like the Lightning. I think it will. And we'll see. It'll take the first one. I don't think vehicle to grid, vehicle to load, that's everyone's argument as to why this isn't going to work. It supports it. I don't know at what level. I don't know if this has been decided yet, but either way, the cable will support it. And so, yeah, I mean, like 3 people have your home vehicle to load thing. So like that's not going to hold up this transition.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, GM already has, beta units out there testing their system. Do they just scrap it at this point? I wonder,
why go with the worst charger at this point? It's just, I'm all in. And I think everyone's going to be all in. As soon as you see 1, 2, 3 more automakers, it's just inevitable at that point. And right, exactly. So Maki Vlog commenting, it will support vehicle to grid. Details will come later. Technically, the vehicle to grid standard for J1772 and CCS isn't done. Like this, they don't even know how they're going to do it. It's all proprietary solutions right now. There's no interoperability. Your Ford vehicle to grid only works with your Ford Lightning.
Which is not the future.
Right. So, well, let's just all go in with the Tesla connector, sort it out for that one. It's going to use the same communication. That's the big problem. You can run the communication through any cable and we're good to go.
I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense. Just as for years, I was saying that the Tesla's connector is the most elegant solution, but I just don't know if these companies are ready to go all in on NACS yet. Are they dipping their toes in the water with NACS and saying, okay, we're going to allow our customers to have access for it through an adapter or an extra charge port? I don't know if these companies, Kyle, are saying, okay, that's it. We're going to build our company around this connector. We're abandoning J1772 and CCS. I don't know if they're at that point yet. I'm not saying it wouldn't be the right decision, but these companies, these giant, we talk about, they're like battleships. They take a long time to turn. They're not little speedboats like Tesla and Rivian is that can just make decisions. One guy can make a decision and the whole company has to turn. I don't know if we'll see that type of transition as quickly as we would like it to be, is what I'm saying.
I know, and I think all of these. I'd laugh at all the comments here for people, and there's a lot that are all in on NACS, and then you got some CCS lovers in here, and I think they only like CCS because they hate Elon. At the end of the day, the Tesla connector's better. I'm all in, and it's going to be freaking awesome. Can't wait. It's just a matter of.
Well, we saw the same thing, Kyle, with Chatham when CCS came out. It was a bitter discussions on, CCS and Chatham to the point where people were convinced that the SAE developed CCS just to slow down electric vehicle adoption because we already had a standard. We don't need another one. All these companies that are signing on for CCS are doing it just to slow down adoption, which I think was folly. But, we're going to see that here now. The same thing, the CCS Tesla camps are going to go back and forth. You can't deny, though, that the Tesla's a better connector, easier to use, more elegant, everything about it. It's just a better connector. I just wish to hell that this was 10 years ago, that, we didn't have to do all of this. It's a shame. And if anybody, and I've had arguments with people on Twitter about this, not arguments, but spirited discussions, let's say. If anybody thinks that this was open 10 years ago when, Elon published, all of our patents are yours or whatever that was,
right?
Nobody could use this connector. No one was allowed to make it. No one was even allowed to show it on one of their products. Tesla did not allow anyone to use it. They offered the opportunity. We could sit down at a table and discuss the use of it, but the cost of admission was extremely high. Many companies tried to work out deals with Tesla. They all walked away at the end because they said it's just too expensive. Yeah. So either they decided to pony up now or Tesla lowered the entry fee.
Right. I wonder how that is, because that's a big part of the whole, conversation. Like, because if Tesla had that barrier low a long time ago, we wouldn't be having this discussion now. This would be old news, right? But also, I'm just curious too, Tom. Do you know that, like, the history of the CCS standard to begin with, like which came first, the CCS standard or the Tesla plug?
So the Tesla for sure, but CCS was being developed and it just wasn't ready yet. And Tesla at the time, it took very long. I actually know one of the engineers that was on the SAE board that developed J1772 and CCS. He was actually in the Mini E program with me way back in 2008. And, Tesla just didn't want to wait. And that was basically like, our cars are coming. You're taking too long. So we're just going to develop something in-house. I think Tesla probably would have preferred to be part of a consortium that developed one plug and ran with it, as long as they were happy with the end product. It was just Tesla already had Model S's on the road before CCS was finalized.
Right.
So they couldn't wait.
Yeah, I remember when that CCS plug came out, it was like, why do we need this? Like, why not adopt? I mean, it's like so big and clunky, and it's like, why is the SAE making this standard for all the automakers? Are they all on board? It's just that whole process seemed to be a little opaque. So it was hard to tell, why are we developing this thing?
Well, those companies had reps on the boards and everything, that were involved in the designing it. And it could have been a little bit of, no, we're going to do our own. That's going to be better. And, who's this new, this tech company out in California? We don't need them to tell us how to make a plug. We're SAE, this is what we do.
It felt like that was a lot of what was going on there.
It could have been. There's a lot of bravado. There's still a lot of bravado within these companies. That's still if there wasn't bravado, let's face it, guys, everyone would already have switched because it's better and they all know it's better. So it's not capitulating to, that tech company out in California.
Donovan Lewis says, my mom cannot use the CCS connector with a weight and cable thickness, but she can use NACS.
We don't know what the third-party cables will feel and look like for NACS. So she can use a Tesla supercharger cable, but as soon as Amphenol, Rima, Huber-Suner, as soon as all of these companies, Phoenix Contact, I hope makes a good cable because I'm a Phoenix Contact fan. As soon as we see one of their Tesla cables, there's no reason why it's going to be any thinner than what they're making now. It's going to be just a pain in the butt. So that's why I think Tesla needs to sell their own cables, reduce the cycle count from 10,000 cycles, which is what most CCS connectors are rated to now, to 1,000 cycles. None of them make it to their life cycle anyway, because they get run over, dropped, chopped off, and vandalized. So just run the cables hard, make them cheap, and make them replaceable very easily, and make them thin and nice. That's my ask.
But I don't think it's just the cable weight, Kyle. I know that's a big part of it. The CCS connector is clunky, and you've got to get it lined up perfectly. If it's on an angle a little bit, it doesn't attach. And I've seen people like pull the cable over and it's not perfectly square with the car, and they're trying to get it on. And I'm doing a recording and I run over. I'm like, here, let me do this for you really quick, and just snap it on them, run back. Because back when we had to press the button every 60 seconds, I couldn't leave the station too long. I love that EA changed their software and we don't have to keep updating. We don't have to keep refreshing the screen. But, I can't tell you how many times I help somebody plug in, even not an elderly person, a young girl that weighs like, 100 pounds, is like struggling and they're not locking the tab, and it looks like it's connected. And I'm like, here, let me just do this, and just push it, and you hear it click. I'm like, if you don't hear it click, it's not going to charge, and it's just the Tesla. It's just, even if it's a heavy cable, it's just this, crying out loud, and then
right.
And this CCS is even smaller than a CCS on a DC fast charger. This is for the Charge Station Pro. It's a little bit small. I mean, look at that. Plug these two things in.
A different experience for sure.
And this locking tab, that makes it so much more difficult, and that's what breaks all the time. This doesn't have it. It's just, I know we've said this a million times, but there's just a million reasons why it's better.
So charging manufacturers. I feel like we touched on it earlier, and we did show that. Let me show that back on screen with ABB. Like, these conversations would have been happening already all around the world at every charging manufacturer. But the thing that I thought was interesting in this thing that we showed up was that ABB specifically said open standards and interoperability are foundational elements of a robust and scalable e-mobility economy. So clearly making the point there, it's an open standard. And again, I haven't read the NACS documentation, or if there's guides for everything that's needed to be known. I've not sat down and read that 100-page PDF. But if it is indeed an open standard, then this is exactly what needs to happen as quick as possible. We've got companies coming to the US, the likes of Kempower, expanding outside of Europe and building their factory. That might well be open by the end of the year, I gather. And that hardware that's going in the ground in Europe is really good stuff, and it's beautiful. It's like the Kempower stuff, a nice simple pedestal with just that big spring coming out the top of it. And if that is all just native NACS, that's going to be such an elegant, gorgeous solution. The superchargers are nice as well, by the way, and they do what they do. But I think the Kempower stuff, I like a screen. I like being and you're going to need a screen, or at least a way of having a screen with you, like you do at the minute when you're third-party Tesla supercharging, to see what it's doing, because Tesla superchargers have no way of telling, because they use, again, it's just one of the reasons why superchargers are great. They haven't got credit card readers on them. They haven't got screens on them that break and get smashed and have burn-in and all that kind of stuff. So, I think the Kempower solution, where you can take it with you, or you can look at the screen, you do the little QR code. It's just, those kind of solutions are great, and if they can put the NACS natively on it as soon as possible, and they're licensed to do it, and it's an open solution, it's just game-changingly brilliant news for EV drivers. I did show a comment on screen that said, what does it do for sales of Ford and GM between now and 2025? I don't know what the answer is to that question. Do people care? I don't know. What does it do for sales between now and then? Maybe nothing? Apart from
I think eventually we're going to see, with more automaker announcements in the short term, that it's like, oh yeah, this thing's just going to open and there'll be an adapter, is my guess, for anyone. I don't think it's going to affect sales, but what it is going to do is affect customer experience. Some people just to make sure I have a well-rounded statement here, some people think it's going to massively drive sales. What it will do, though, and I think Tom and you guys will agree with this, is if you're looking at a Mustang Mach-E or Hyundai Ioniq 5, and you're just a general consumer, and one has access to the supercharger network natively, they can just plug, charge, and go. And the other one, you got to use this adapter and use your app and all this stuff. I think that's going to be a buying decision maker right there.
Absolutely. And that was the example I gave 2 weeks ago, Kyle, if you remember. I said, if this is 2025 and you're thinking about getting the second generation Lightning or the Silverado EV, one has access to supercharger network, one doesn't. You can't even, you could prefer the Silverado all you want. You can't buy it. So that's why I fully believed GM was going to be next. Now let's go around the wheel here. Who's next? I think Stellantis.
Right.
How about you guys?
Has to be.
I think they have to. I mean, everybody has to, but who's next? Who's quickest? Who's most nimble, I guess. I was, because they need this. If GM can figure it out in 2 weeks, then there's no reason why these other guys haven't figured this out already. They're probably in negotiations already. Most of them.
We'll see another one today. I mean, it's just going to be boom, 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 boom. It's going to be amazing.
And
So,
I feel sorry for any of the smaller car companies who go with it, because they will all have to now, just as they all could have chosen CHAdeMO or CCS, but they all had to go CCS1 in North America. They will all now have to go NACS in North America. I feel kind of bad for them, because they'll make the announcement and we'll all be like, huh? Oh, that's nice. And it won't get any headlines, but they have to go through the We'll mention it on the podcast, and they'll go through that. We'll mention them, and we'll say, hey, well done. But now Ford and GM have done it. Yeah, I mean, as you say, Stellantis is going to be a big scalp when they finally agree.
I mean, they don't have any EVs over here, so
That's the thing. They almost don't have to announce it yet.
it's easy for them. They can
They're
do
not
whatever.
selling anything, so it's like there's no rush,
There's
but
loads over here. My
but
goodness,
I think they'll do it just because from a public relations angle at this point to be like, they almost have to, even though there's no rush, for them to really add it. But I think they have to. The biggest question is, who'll be the first German automaker to do this? Because I think they're the ones that are going to. Who?
There you go.
Volkswagen, Mercedes.
No,
who's going to be the first one?
Yeah.
It's not going to be Volkswagen Group. So is it BMW? Is it Mercedes? That's going to be the big one.
Mercedes has shown they're willing to get creative with a charging experience, because they had the partnership with ChargePoint. They had the additional partnership with Electrify America. They decided to go in and spend a bunch of money to build their own network because they were frustrated. They show that they care about the consumer. They'll be first, but also they'll be last because they're German. So, it's as soon as one German automaker does it, for sure, we're not going to see any more CCS in the US in a number of years. But at least for now, I think Rivian has the easiest and needs to switch, and they will. Why not? The trucks can support it easily. It's a 400-volt system architecture. They need a lot of current. They have a very small amount of Rivian Adventure Network chargers out there that can easily be swapped over from a handle perspective with very little cost at the moment. It's just, can they buy the handles? And then, no question, Volvo Polestar. I think EX90, EX30 will launch. They're going to launch at the same time in the US, roughly. I think they're both going to launch natively with a Tesla connector. They might be the first ones on sale with a native Tesla connector, or they might do it for a model year change if they're being a little bit skittish about it. Who do you think's next, Tom?
So, I mean, I think Stellantis, domestic, overall next is Stellantis. I think Volvo is gonna be one of the first, say, foreign brands that join in, especially coming off of that interview. When it was clear he didn't want, Bjorn didn't want to say that we're doing it, but it seemed clear to me that this has already been going on. Why didn't they announce it at the launch? That would have been, it was a perfect opportunity to get even more excitement going for the vehicle, but which we're going to get into a little bit later. But I think Stellantis, Kyle, and then followed by one like a Volvo. But I'm really, to me, the smaller companies, aren't that important. I want to know when the first German manufacturer does it, because that's going to be, that they're having Charin meetings and everything over this. And, that's, they're probably trying to, instill solidarity onto them and saying, you can't do this. You're a founding member of Charin, and, the money we've invested, the time we've invested, but let's see. I think the premium brands that are coming from Germany, like particularly Mercedes, Audi, Porsche, BMW, they have to think of their customers first, and this is a good move for their customers.
Boy, does this make Charin look dumb, though, doesn't it?
I mean, so Charin had a big response to the Ford announcement last week,
know.
Right?
It was the most tone deaf thing I've ever read.
It was a bit defensive.
It was a terrible response. I enjoyed doing stuff with Charin this year. I know Tom's been doing a lot longer than I did, but I was like, why the heck is this organization who's somehow advocating for consumer reliability and interoperability giving this response when it's truly a worse situation? Now that GM is switching, now the fate is sealed in the US as far as I'm concerned. Now are they going to say, well, and to be clear, all of North American Charging Standards communication is born out of Charin. A lot of this, they're going to use the CCS comms. So Charin's got to get on board here and support this thing, or start another consortium and leave this thing in the dust. I don't know. What do you think, Tom? You're involved in this world. What's your impression? Is Charin going to evolve, or are we going to have to create a new situation?
No, I think they're going to go down with the ship. I really don't see them capitulating at all. And we've talked to them, and you've talked to them, and I have interviews. Matter of fact, I've got to work on that video where I've got the one board member at Charin basically telling me, yeah, nobody's going to use Tesla connector. I just recorded that 3 weeks ago. So yeah, I don't see that, Kyle, at all. I still think for a while, it's not like this is it. We're going to rip out all the CCS plugs. I think we're going to have, a parallel experience out there for a while. I think this basically seals the long-term. I think long-term, that's it. The NACS is going to be it. But in the short term, it's not like CCS is going to go away anytime soon. We're going to have it at least through the next decade, in my opinion. It's like, look, we still have, CHAdeMO stations all over the place. So we're still installing new CHAdeMO stations to this day. So, I think CCS is going to kind of die a slow death. I don't think it's going to be anything quick and abrupt.
I don't know. It's like one of those things. I saw a payphone the other day. Yeah, I almost got out and made a little video about it. But then I noticed, because I was going to get out and make a call, but then I looked at it closely. Like half the receiver was broken off. Right?
You were going to use the payphone?
Yeah, just to see if it actually works, right? Payphone. Wow, I haven't seen one of those in forever. But I really do feel like CCS is going to go like that, like pretty quickly, phase it. There's no reason for it, and I don't think with them, they've done their due diligence. GM's not going to sign. Ford's not going to sign, commit to something like this, integral to the whole company, basically, without assurances that they can go 100% whole hog and not have to worry about, we have CCS as a fallback. There's no fallback. It's NACS. That's what it is.
Yep. I think it's going to be, definitely a confusing time, a big speed bump in the road in the very short term. If anything, it might even cause some major issues in the short term to do this, but it's all for the long-term benefit of using the better connector. And I'm all in. I'm just like, anyone going NACS, that's the future. You got it. Anyone sticking with CCS, when are you going to switch? It's not really a switch.
Right. Yeah. This basically means this is not all good for Tesla. Tesla, that means really now Tesla really needs to invest in getting that stuff in the ground, because now there's no reason for people not to buy other vehicles now. Before, you might not buy the Ford Mustang Mach-E because, charging experiences might be tricky, might be difficult, Now all that goes away. So it just opens up the market for everybody to kind of choose whatever brand they want to without having to worry about that one element. And you know, it might not be great for Tesla down the road, depending on what the competition comes out with. You know, now they have to really compete on product and experience.
Well, they're evidently not afraid of that, Tom. You know, if Tesla was afraid of competition, they wouldn't have allowed other people to use it. You know, so you know, and they have to keep pedal to the metal, installing new charging stations and sites, which they've done all along. Tesla has not let up. They have just been pedal to the metal. They're accelerating their speed at which they install new stations, and hopefully this will incentivize them financially, you know, to even install even more. So, you know, good news all around, and it'll be good news that we're going to have the NACS connectors on other equipment. You know, so just more options.
It's so fascinating. I've said so many times with Tesla that they're making so many big plays or big bets that if just one of them comes off, they're an enormous company. And I always lean towards them being a global energy company with the work that they're doing with smart grids and you know, energy trading and energy arbitrage. And they're doing some things over here, Australia as well, and you know, there's a Tesla tariff I can be on that doesn't get publicized very well, but they're doing all these interesting little things with energy. Then they're doing big things, of course, like with the mega packs. And I always thought, you know, I wonder if making cars is just the first thing with them. Like the cars might be a sideshow one day, but maybe lots of bets will pay off, in which case, you know, that's amazing. I never thought that Tesla's, you know, in 20 years' time, they're going to be known as being a car company. And this could really pivot them, apart from also making great cars, to being, at least in North America, like the linchpin in mobility, the linchpin of how you move around. And that's amazing to think about. It depends how much control they want to keep.
So I'm just looking at the notes. Yeah, it's a whole different world out there. So have we beat this into the ground? Can we talk about some Swedish cars from China?
Woo!
Yeah, some Swedish cars that are very much trying to convince you they're Swedish, but they're actually Chinese.
Right.
That's fine.
And that's fine because, man.
Holy smokes.
Let's talk about okay. So the Volvo EX30 made its debut last week, and you guys both got to go to frickin' Italy to go check it out. I'm so jealous.
Well, to be fair, Tom had more fun than I did, I'm sure, because I really jammed my schedule in. So I said, like, I need to get there. I need, 30 minutes or an hour with the car, and then I'm flying back to the US.
Right.
Tom got to go and talk to people and learn more. I really just was like, here's your studio. See you later.
But you got time with the actual car by yourself. I think Tom had to fight the hordes or something. I'm not really sure what was happening, what his experience was. But I think you had at least for your content creation, you had a good deal. But let's talk about the car. So the Volvo EX30 made its official debut, and there's a whole lot to get excited about here. The headline price for the base vehicle is like surprisingly low. It's a headline. It's $35,000, $34,950. That's in the US. 36,000 euros in Europe, which is great. And the acceleration performance is like on the Spaceys trim, twin motor performance, especially quick with a 3.4 0 to 60. Even the single motor rear drive, it comes in with those two configurations, 5.1 seconds 0 to 60. It comes with two different batteries, but only one's coming to the US. It looks like they have a small pack, an LFP pack for Europe, which will give you 200 miles of range approximately. And then they're saying for North America, we get 270 miles with the rear-wheel drive, or 260 miles with the all-wheel drive version. I'm not sure how much I really need to say right now myself. Maybe Kyle, you have all those specs and things. Tell us about the motors.
Well, I'll just quickly give you the rundown, the full picture of this car. It's
okay.
the super small Volvo SUV, smaller than they've ever done.
Right.
And that's actually good. And I think they did the launch in Milan because I was driving a Fiat Panda there. I just rented one from Sixt, and like that was the biggest car I saw, and this was a tiny little Fiat. So it actually seems like the right size for Italy. And
Uh-huh.
I had a blast. By the way, we have a whole video coming out on our Fiat Panda adventures. I know it's not electric, but it was
Right.
just I
I'm
was there
kind of
literally
curious,
for a
though.
day, and I drove like 500 miles. We filmed the car. One of my best friends was there. We had a blast. We were just full send around Italy. And we were doing timed laps around the city of Milan. It was amazing. So
Brilliant.
great time. But the EX30 is tiny. It's relatively roomy on the inside, considering the exterior dimensions, especially in the front row. Second row, fairly tight. Big headroom, big shoulder room. Just the front passengers have to move up a little bit if you're a big dude. But if you have a car seat or anything, it's no problem. The big story here, not only does it look amazing, not only do the interior materials feel really amazing, it's the price. It's $34,950 starting price. It's $5,000 cheaper than a Tesla Model 3. Now, granted, this does not qualify for the $7,500 tax credit like all Teslas do right now in the US. And so that's going to be a slight hit. But keep in mind, not everyone can qualify. It still will qualify for state incentives. New Jersey has a massive one. Colorado just got a $5,000 incentive. So it's still going to do those. And ultimately, it's an SUV and feels way more premium than a Model 3. Now, there's reasons to buy a Model 3. For example, access to the supercharger network, app integration, driver assistance is amazing. It's a known quantity on resale value. The Model 3 LFP is one of the best cars on sale. But if this launches with the Tesla connector and it has more standard range than at least the current Model 3 does, it's 10 miles more roughly. I think it's 275 mile EPA. We'll see how that translates in the real world. This is a winner. It is such a good value in terms of performance. The single motor is a rear wheel drive motor on the correct axle, 5.1 seconds 0 to 60, 200 kilowatt motor. It's going to be plenty, but 280 horsepower, 270 horsepower, I think 268, something like that. And then the all wheel drive is going to be crazy. This EX30 twin motor performance is going to be the fastest Volvo ever. And there's been some quick Volvos out there. It's faster than my Polestar 1. This thing is going to be 3.4 seconds 0 to 60 in a tiny hatchback that they're calling an SUV. I mean, this is going to be the coolest thing ever. If they do like a performance upgrade with the Öhlins and the big brakes from Polestar 2, or, how cool would that be? This is awesome. It's built on SEA, so it's a similar shared platform to the Smart #1. And, so underneath they're very similar. I think similar drivetrains as well. Different battery pack, 69 kilowatt hour gross, 64 kilowatt hour usable, NMC only in the US. Europe will get a standard LFP battery pack that's 51 gross, 49 kilowatt hour usable. That's going to be a very popular option because I believe Volvo will also let you full charge that like the Tesla car. So the actual delta between an 80 or 90% charge on the NMC pack versus 100 on the LFP every day, big in terms of daily usable range. And, I think there's a couple niggles with the car just from playing around with it. I'm curious what Tom thinks. The lack of driver instrument cluster isn't that big of a deal for me personally, but it does seem like the center screen where they're going to put the speed, where you see the P right there, if you're watching on YouTube, is a bit farther away than where it is in the Model 3. I almost wish they went with a horizontal screen rather than a vertical screen.
Yeah.
And speaking of the screen, software is going to be great. I played around with it. It was super snappy. And even they were like, Kyle, don't show this in the video. I showed it in the video. Because that
was funny.
Ready. I'm like, well, it's way better than whatever Volkswagen shows us every time. So I'm showing it. And, the one problem is, though, they must have benchmarked the Volkswagen ID4's window controls with the stupid rear button and said, this is a great idea. Let's put this stupid freaking switch in our nice car. And they totally botched the windows. So, you have two window switches, but then you have a rear control. I don't know whoever used that in the ID4 and thought this is brilliant. But if that's my only major complaint about the whole car, like we're doing pretty great here. And I am so pumped about it. I ordered one, not for me. I just think I'm going to know so many people that want this thing.
Right.
Like soon as reservations open, I put in my $500, and
Sure.
I don't know which one of my friends is going to buy it, but I've already gotten so much inquiry about this car. And to be totally transparent as well, our ID Buzz video did fairly well on out of spec reviews. I think almost 400,000 views, something like that now. Like, it's rocking. This is outperforming the ID Buzz video.
Wow.
So people are really, really pumped up about this. All right,
I
so that's
mean-
my feel. I want to hear what Tom thinks, because he was there. He probably spent more time with the car than I did and got to talk to all the engineers. That's literally all I got from reading the press release and leaving. So what do you got, Tom?
So I was able to speak to people, but you probably spent more time with it than I did. This was an enormous event. They invited so many people to this event, and not just journalists, a lot of influencers. It was just, the event was enormous, hundreds of people, and we really couldn't get time alone with the vehicle. And which is disappointing. You were able to spend more time with it than I was. I was, sitting in it, fighting with other people, elbow to elbow, just to get some time alone in the vehicle, Kyle. So don't think I did better than you as far as spending time with the vehicle. I got to speak to people, but what I got out of it was my biggest question, and besides the NACS, which I was really trying to get their temperature on that, and I think I got a clear answer without getting a clear answer, was the price. I don't know how this is profitable. They're paying the import tax, which is, what is it, 20 something percent, 27% or something like that, some crazy amount. So, from China, how can they sell this? The tax alone, I calculate, was like $9,600 or something like that, is what they're paying per vehicle. So, all the automakers are telling us how EVs aren't profitable. They're losing money on them. How can they come in here with a 70 kilowatt hour battery, this type of, configuration, beautiful EV, and sell this? I believe that it's not profitable, at least the base version. There's going to be 3 different versions. We don't have all the pricing yet. In Europe, they released all the pricing, and the top spec one starts at, I think it was 49,000 euro. So okay. I think it's going to be really hard to get the base model. I think it's going to be where, they make a few of them, the $35,000 version ones, but then, the rest of them are 42,000, 48,000, the higher trim, because this just has too much to offer to be sold at that price. I know it's small, and I know it's kind of decontented. I mean, if you look at the interior, it's very clean. And that was one of the ways that they were able to reduce cost, even with the switch that Kyle just talked about, where they didn't have proper rear window switches. That saved money. They have a sound bar on the front of the vehicle, not individual speakers, and that saved a lot of money also. And that also prevented, from what I understand, them from having a head-up display, which I think is problematic. Because without having any driver cluster, now I know the Model 3 owners like Kyle and myself that have gotten used to it and said, it's fine, it's not a problem. But I think people looking at it to buy it are going to look at it and say, there's nothing for me to look at there except this vertical screen over here, which, again, I agree with Kyle, the horizontal screens are better. I think that if they could have bundled in a head-up display on, let's say, the top trim, that would have been a big win for them, because I think that not having any option to have anything in front of you is going to hold back some potential buyers. But I mean, it's the least expensive Volvo. It's the fastest Volvo ever made. Like, what do you say to the people that are interested in buying the higher trim vehicles? Like, oh yeah, the car we sell for 35 grand could smoke this. Right. Isn't that a bit of a weird situation? Like, but in any event, I think it's awesome. And I think this could be the first, we talk about in the 70s how the Japanese cars invaded the US and Europe, and they were kind of, second-class citizens for a while when they first came out. People laughed at them. My father called them toys, because, I mean, the name sounded like a toy, a Toyota, and I think this is going to be the first vehicle that comes to the U.S., Chinese vehicle. I know Polestars are here. I know there's been small, lower volume cars coming. I think this is the beginning of the Chinese invasion. I really do. And this car ticks all the boxes. Volvo's going to sell them as fast as they can make them. I talked to Volvo I asked them the questions about dealer markups. They were very, cagey about the answer
Are you
on that.
ordering one right now, Martin?
Yeah.
Sorry, is this on screen? Let me do this privately.
Subscription. Oh, you get the subscription model over there, 740
Yeah.
euros.
So you put your
Okay.
credit card in there. But
Everyone screenshot.
yeah. But in any event, I'm curious to also see how the dealers react to this markup wise, because it's a fantastic value. Dealers could easily tack on $5,000 and buyers wouldn't even flinch. Now I know we're going to get a lot of comments, but I won't pay a penny over MSRP. You're right, you won't. That's fine, but there's plenty of people that will, because of the value that you get on this. It's a premium vehicle, relatively long range. That range rating, Kyle, they didn't tell us if it was WLP or EPA, WLTP. It had to be WLTP, I think. I was doing the numbers. You think it's EPA 275?
They told me it's the EPA estimated number.
Okay, I couldn't get them to give us an answer on what metric they used.
Also, they gave me a tech sheet. I gave my presentation off of that tech sheet, and then they changed it the next day. So without telling me, I'm glad I logged in to go read it, because I got that
update. The email, don't use what we gave you.
See, they didn't send me an email. I just logged in randomly.
Yeah.
So no email from them. So they almost screwed me on that, but that's okay. It's EPA estimated.
Yeah.
Now, it might be
that doesn't say that anywhere, though, in any of the press releases. Somebody must have told you that, or you saw it on that hidden sheet or whatever that they gave you.
And I saw some documentation with the EPA estimate, which is interesting because C40 and XC40 have really low EPA, 220s, something like that, with a much larger battery. I don't know. I think it probably is 5 cycles. Probably not realistic. I think if you just expect 200 miles of usable range in any condition, that's good for this.
So WLTP 298. So I would say EPA coming in at sort of 240, 245. So that's amazing.
Unless they do the 5 cycle or they somehow optimize it. They say 275, 265 for rear and dual motor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in real world, it makes kind of sense to me, but I really think this might do for Volvo what the Cayenne did for Porsche, really take it out of sort of its niche. It could really help it go mainstream brand in North America. This car is that good. With the price.
Did you hear any production volumes, Tom?
No, I didn't hear production volumes. They wouldn't. I specifically asked Bjorn that question, but I think that I believe that they said the worldwide production is going to be limited to 100,000 units or something like that.
Oh,
don't quote me on that. I got to go back on my notes. I just got back late last night and I'm still a little, I didn't get much sleep and everything. And we asked, well, why not build this in South Carolina plant? Because it would qualify for the tax incentive and everything. And the answer to that is, that's, we're always looking at future possibilities, but talking about the tax credit, which you said it won't qualify for, and it won't. What they also says, look, most of our customers lease our vehicles, so it will get the tax credit on a lease.
Yep.
So you're not necessarily losing that tax credit, unless you really want to buy it and hold on to it. But
I agree.
It doesn't make sense.
It's gonna have one hell of a lease if they really want to push this thing. They got all the metrics to make this thing like a crazy monthly number. I'm just so pumped up about it. I think we're going to see as many as possible. I asked them about production volumes and got a completely different answer than you, Tom. So it seems like everyone has a little bit of differences. They told me that, I was like, are you going to be able to build enough of these things? I didn't ask enough numbers. And they said, oh yeah. And I was like, okay,
I'll listen to what you said more than what
I wouldn't, because I don't know if the guy I was had, he gave me the wrong spec sheet. I don't know. So it seems like everyone's a little bit confused here. I guess time will tell. No question they have a winner on their hands.
Yeah.
Right. So
and it's only being built in one factory and alongside other vehicles. So there's no factories that can pump out, that many vehicles, in addition with other vehicles side by side, Kyle. So, I don't
disagree.
They would need to build this in another plant. And if they're going to do that, it would make sense to build it in the US also.
It really positions this car in interesting place. So, because some people were asking earlier if if this is like a Bolt replacement. It's not, because the Bolt is $27,000, and this is almost 10,000 more than that. So it doesn't really. It's slightly bigger than the Bolt EV, slightly smaller than the Bolt EUV. This is more of a, I think, like a Kona or possibly Kia Niro replacement. I think we have a lot of Kona owners on the Inside EVs forum, and there was a bunch of people saying, "Oh, I reserved my Volvo."
Yeah.
We got a lot of reservations. Actually,
Definitely Kona size, I think.
Yeah, but except it's a little bit longer overall than Kona, and I think the wheelbase might be a little bit longer too. So there's got a little bit more backseat leg room, because the Kona is notorious for like lack of backseat leg room. So I think this has a little bit better situation going on there, but it might have less cargo space in the Kona. As I saw that mentioned somewhere. I didn't have a chance to look at the numbers for sure to verify that.
Well, the cargo space didn't look too big to me. It definitely, they pushed the rear seats back as far as they could to get some leg room in there. And with the seats up, there wasn't a tremendous amount of cargo space. And there's a little frunk in the front, just a tiny little compartment to put your charging cable, but not much at all. It's a great pack. Kyle, what'd you think about the cross country version?
Well, I thought it was really cool, and they put the little off-roady suspension on it, and like I'm sure people will buy that. I prefer the non-cross country.
Same.
So I just think this looks proper Volvo. And the cross country, they just went like a little bit too overlandy, which doesn't really fit the Volvo vibe. And I've always kind of been not into the Volvo cross countries over the years. I've always liked the standard ones, and everyone buys V90 cross country. I'm like, no, get the nice non-cross country one. What do you think, Tom? You think that's?
I thought it looked awesome.
Yeah,
I thought it looked really good. It's lifted. They put big BF Goodrich KO2s on it, the same tires I put on my Lightning, which are very good performance vehicles. In addition, they look really cool. And that custom tubular rack they built for the roof, I thought that looked really cool. So, I mean, looks wise, I thought it was, you pull down the road with that, you're going to get eyes on you. I thought they did a good job styling wise on it, but so does the regular version. I mean, what a great design. Look at that front end. We have up on the screen now for those watching us on YouTube. Beautiful front end with the Thor headlights and the curved grill, or faux grill. I think design wise, they did about as good as they could with a package this size.
Oh, man,
I mean, this will be the Subaru Crosstrek replacement.
Ooh. I mean, I don't, man, this thing is just so good. I mean, I would just give up, room, whatever extras, cargo room. I'd make some, I would put up a few I would put up some shortfalls here, shortcomings here or there, but because this thing is just it's so beautiful. Look at that clamshell hood.
So why don't you trade your Model 3 for one? You probably it'll probably be a $0 situation, because you'll get big tax credit on this. You'll get depending on everything. It wouldn't cost you much to do a swap if you
no
go
tax credit. No tax credit.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. No tax.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I'd be a
you'd be
$6,000 at least.
A few grand.
Lease it.
The Model 3.
Yeah.
Lease it. Come up to New Jersey, get a P.O. box address in New Jersey. You get an extra $4,000 off on the hood.
Okay.
So talking about $4,000 on the hood, my Bolt's in.
Hey!
No
They called
way.
me when I was in Italy and said, "Come get your car." So
Today,
I could get it right now, but I guess this
let's
weekend
go
at some
live stream.
point.
Just bring the computer with you.
Right. So
This weekend at some point, I'm going to go pick it up.
So could this be a Bolt replacement for you? Are you tempted to? Maybe the Bolt won't be in my garage too long. I wouldn't mind having this in your garage. Does this speak to you at all? And maybe it's too small for you.
The problem I have is I fall in love with every car I go look at. I want to buy the Volkswagen ID Buzz. We saw that just last week. Oh, I got to put a deposit on this. Now this thing, I got to have it. It's me and Meredith here. I have the R1S, a Lightning, and now a Bolt's going to be in the driveway this week.
Right.
So I already have 3 cars for 2 people.
So you need to adopt some kids.
We'll figure out something, but
I don't have a dad at the moment.
So what I like in the garage, of course, as I'm sitting in it over in Italy, I'm like, this would have been a lot better than the Bolt for me at this point, for a small, run around car, but who knows what the future, but that is my biggest issue. I fall in love with not everyone, most of these new EV introductions that we do. And luckily, with the job that I do and with Kyle, it makes business sense for us to buy these vehicles and then earn some money off of them, and then either sell them or I sell them. Kyle just keeps them, and he's up to 19 now. So, but it's at some point the Bolt will be gone, and this could be a replacement. I think it's really cool. But I also really have my eye on the Equinox.
Right. So that was the other car I think this competes with.
Why is the Equinox interesting? Is it only because you owned another vehicle with the Equinox badge and you loved it, and this has no relation to that at all?
That might be part of the reason. Okay. I haven't driven the Equinox yet. Let's see when I drive it, and I like the way it looks. Okay. I'd like to own a vehicle with the Ultium battery to test all that out and see how that works and how it holds up long term. But this is definitely a consideration, Kyle, for sure. I mean, but I want to drive the Equinox first. I would like to drive this also. I can't imagine this not having a good driving experience, but sometimes things on paper don't translate to a great driving experience.
That is the only question mark. If there is a weird driving issue with this car, which let's hope they're not, and Volvos have always driven great, but let's just hope they didn't mess up the driving characteristics of it. Everything on paper, juicier rear motor than the front. From a performance standpoint, it all sounds really good, but let's hope they got it. Someone said Kyle hates all things GM. I really don't. I love the Hummer EV. What I don't understand is why people are so excited about Lyriq and Equinox like Tom, because to me, I'm not seeing anything like overly appealing about them. I've been trying to drive a Lyriq for the longest time, and the Equinox could be a great driving and charging EV. It's very possible, but I guess I'm failing to understand why there's so much excitement other than it just having a Chevy badge on it.
Well, 300 miles of range, affordable vehicle for many people. It's priced lower than this.
More room, a little more spacious, I think.
It's supposed to it should DC fast charge really well. Let's see. I think it has a lot. And to me, it's GM's first real mass market electric vehicle. Now I know the Bolt, was supposed to be, but the Bolt was kind of early. I don't think many people we weren't ready for electric vehicle mass adoption in 2016. And then the Bolt got labeled with the fires and got, that killed the Bolt. Any kind of momentum Bolt sales was having, when they had to pull it and it was in all the news for fires and everything. I think it's part of the reason why GM at this point is saying, you know what, we need to move on. Let's go all in on Ultium. We'll retire the Bolt EV. But
which is sad. The Bolt's so great.
It is, and every month now it seems like they're selling more and more. I'm glad I'm getting one before they stop it. But I'm excited about the Equinox for the fact that I think it's going to bring electrification to people that wouldn't have it before. And
the pricing final. I mean, that's always been my thing. It was announced with that pricing,
right.
But is it confirmed? Because it's just a rumor, as far as I know.
Not until you can go to the dealer and drive it away. I guess, Kyle. Right. In the same light that this $35,000 EX30 isn't real until you can buy. You're pre-ordering one now. You notice the little disclaimer about the price is not set in stone. So, until you can drive off the dealership with one of these for 30 grand, that doesn't exist.
And 30 grand was like a front wheel drive small battery too, right?
Yeah. Right. But also tax credit it should get, right? So like, it's going to be really cheap. So I get that. I didn't actually realize how inexpensive it stayed being. I didn't, when they launched it, I remember talking about the price. I didn't remember it was going to, or I didn't realize it was like, that is still the price, which is pretty good.
Yeah, well, they haven't. GM hasn't announced that it's not yet. Could it change at some point? And they say, it's because of the recent price increases and all the minerals and everything, we've had to bump it up to $32.99 or something like that. I can't imagine GM bumping it up more than say 10% to 33,000 because that would be an enormous fail on their part. They might almost have to take a loss on the base version and make money up on the people that are getting the higher trim levels. I think, I know Volvo told me it's not the case, but I think that's the case with the EX30. I don't know how they could sell that in the US, paying a $10,000 import duty for $35,000. I just don't know. Show me the math, how that works when everybody's saying we cannot sell EVs for less than $40,000. you know,
Right.
and profitably.
That was a thing from Mary Barra this past week too. I want to mention that she had made the statement. I didn't hear it directly, but I believe the quote is something like, cannot profitably make a car between $30,000 and $40,000 before the end of the decade. So this Equinox, so they're going to plan on losing money on that. I don't know. I don't know if they're making. I don't actually believe that in a way. I don't know if what they're including, because you can play with numbers a lot, but you know, I think the margin, you have to have margin, you know, some amount of gross margin. It costs you a lot of money to build battery factories, and there's a lot of capital involved with that. So if you include that in your calculations, yeah, you're not going to make a whole lot of money before the end of the decade, but they got to be making some gross margin, because what are you going to just let them trickle out of the factory because you're losing money out of them? You kind of have to produce, you know, people, their dealers need to have product to sell, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see what the final price is when they launch.
Well,
but I also think
I just didn't realize how cheap it is. Yes, I get it. Thank you for answering my question. That's awesome.
Yeah, that to me, you know, and I've been beating that drum of affordable EVs for a long time now, and you know that we're not going to get mass adoption when the, you know, average cost of a new EV is $55,000 or whatever it is. We're just not going to. Americans can't afford that. Well, you know, nobody can. You know, I mean, so we want to see this whole tidal wave of EVs coming in and just taking over and eclipsing ICE sales, you know, in 5-6 years. That's not going to happen until we get affordable EVs. And that's why I love the Volvo also, because you're getting people into a long range, luxury, high performance EV for not a lot of money.
You know, I'm going to go drive the Silverado next week, or maybe it's just a little bit longer than that. So I'm really looking forward to like that all happening. Like, it feels real.
Yeah. Definitely. Oh, can we just to back up for a second? You guys didn't see what kind of suspension the EX30 has on it? It's like a 5-link rear. Or...
I didn't really.
Was getting yelled at by looking at too many things.
Don't look under there.
Pictures of the VIN number. Why do you care? I'm like, I want to know everything.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you give us a car to check out and look at, we're going to check out and look at as much. You get on the floor and look up underneath.
They were like half joking, but I was also like, I don't think they want me crawling up underneath this thing. It wasn't like totally right. I mean, I was like peeling up the front trunk and stuff.
Right.
Like,
yeah, you lifted up the front. Like I don't know. I guess it's a bit easier to ask for forgiveness and permission.
No, well, it was cool to open the front trunk, but then I was just like off camera, like really looking at stuff.
Tearing plastics off.
Yeah, they didn't really like that so much. I was like, no one's looking. Okay.
Right. That was interesting.
I came all the way to Italy to see this thing. I'm going to see it.
Right. It was interesting. You were pointing out one small thing. This is just a tiny thing, but the plastic underneath that, the hood, covering the engine bay or the motor bay, the front area, it's like was a smooth plastic. It wasn't textured. And so like a very pre-production. Right.
Yeah. Prototype.
It's interesting that you pointed that out in the video. So that's a good point. Yeah.
But it's only 6 months away here. So then like the car has to
be done.
Yeah, it has to be pretty finished, because deliveries start in 6 months, at least in the UK. So it's fairly done.
So 6 months, so like the first of the year, because here it's summer of 2024.
Yeah, no, delivery is marked down in the car that I definitely didn't just buy. It was 6 to 8 months, I get it. So that would be, that's the turn of the year. So, yeah.
And so that's before EX90.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool. That's great. I mean, what
this is such a U car. It's a performance, premium, small. Like, it's good. This is all you.
This is in your country.
It fits in this country. This is the car. This is the one with dual motor performance, 429 horsepower or something, or 430.
Yeah.
Oh God! And you don't. I saw some of the comments saying, why do you need? The thing is, if a car company makes a car that's slower than a Tesla, people pile in and go, "Oh, it's only 7 seconds," which is ridiculous because and then when Volvo go, "Oh, by the way, 3.5 seconds, 0 to 60," people in the comments are being like, "Oh, no one needs that." You're right. You're right. Nobody needs 3.5 seconds, 0 to 60. But hell do you want it? And just for when the car seats in the back aren't full, and it puts a smile on your face. So yeah, I think this is brilliant that it's only, and it's not as was my frustration with the Buzz conversation last week, which was like, well, this is all great, but like 12 months minimum for the long wheelbase US spec one, which is mind-bendingly frustrating that they did that launch and then it's over a year.
Like, see ya.
Right.
And now they just disappear for a year or whatever. So it's just annoying because the vehicle's out and I see them flying around here, and it's like, come on, you can make them. You can be quicker than this. So really impressive by Volvo. The specs are just brilliant, and I think that's actually really smart to have an entry-level model that nobody will buy, but idiots on podcasts like us talk about because it's entry-level 33,000 UK pounds, which puts it in that conversation. So the magazine articles and the YouTube videos are going to start comparing this to a Kona and a Nero, and actually the MGs as well, because they will go up to sort of low 30s. They start at 25. But again, that's the brilliant thing about the MG. They start at 25. No one's speccing that base spec, but it puts it into the conversation. So Volvo are really smart. They've got the conversation going. They've gone with the low price. No one's going to order one of those. But it just gets people talking. It's just brilliant. Volvo Geely, completely on it right now. So it's so good to see.
So
we got that EV hot hatch.
Yeah.
Do you guys know if it's going to come with that glass roof? Because it has a great looking glass roof in it and it helps with headroom in the back seat.
It can't
somewhat.
do.
Not standard. There's no way.
Right. I mean, that's what I would think, but then who knows?
We didn't get all the options breakdown or anything like that.
Right.
I don't think they know yet. And I was asking about the mix, like how many single motor rear versus twin motor performance are you going to do?
We're
and
not going to get many single motor rear here.
I actually think we will, but I think they're going to come with some packages on them. Like typically Volvo will do like an interior pack, a driver assistance pack, something like that. So like, I think there's going to be a few things. I actually think, Tom, I'm not as pessimistic as you about the standard model not coming. I know from a cost perspective, yes, but like Volvo's always been very good about dealers not charging markups, even for hot cars, which they've had. And like, there's been cases of them, but they're not nearly as bad as some other dealers. And they've always had a really good mix of options. They've always had base, mid, and top spec cars in stock. So I'd be surprised if they don't at least keep that trend going. But it would make sense if they didn't. I agree.
Yeah, I just remember a lot of the Volvo dealers that I went when I did dealer training, would tell me that we just order all-wheel drive vehicles. Like the rear-wheel drive vehicles we get are just like forced allotment. Like we don't even ask for them. We want as many all-wheel drive because that's what our customers want. Maybe because it's New Jersey and we get snow here.
Yes, it's a North Market. It's a premium car. Same in Colorado. I go to Florida. I see a bunch of front-wheel drive Volvos driving around. I think it's very regional. But yeah, why in Colorado by you? Yeah, we're going to see a bunch of the twin motors. Why not? And we need all-wheel drive where we live.
Yeah, definitely all-wheel drive up there. But I would be really tempted to buy just like the rear-wheel drive because that's 5.10 to 60. That's the same as my rear-wheel drive Tesla. It's the same numbers. Yeah. That's plenty quick.
That's really all you need.
And for the money,
it's not all you want, but it's all you need.
Right.
It is all you need. It's absolutely and get the range.
Delta,
yeah.
If $10,000 difference, I'm going rear-wheel drive just because it's hard to justify that kind of expense. But yeah, it's just a terrific package. Should we talk about something else? We're getting close to the end of the show.
Is there anything else to talk about? We got everything in the title.
Yeah, I mean, well, we didn't mention that speaking of competition, and it's not really a straight up competitor, I don't think, because it's a sedan compared to a crossover, but the all the trims of the Tesla Model 3 now are eligible for the IRA incentives. So that means someone's suggesting I get a part-time job at Walmart. Good idea, John. I've always wanted to work at Walmart.
Do we know how they did that? Because aren't the batteries from China?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, but I guess maybe
how
do
did
it
that
because
work?
maybe the value of the pack is like a lot lower, or maybe the iron in the. I don't know how.
I don't know.
I was kind of looking
somebody
for a
needs to
clue.
really investigate how they got that because I don't know how that works. How's that square with what the rules are supposed to be?
Right, but it's on their website, right? Tesla's website is announcing that everything is now eligible, and
Do we know if it's retroactively eligible as well for everyone who bought
should be.
LFP who thought they were going to get 3,750 now actually get 7,500?
Unless there's a physical change, but I don't think there is. There's still
Right.
an LFP pack.
If they haven't applied for it yet in their taxes at the end of the year, Kyle, then they would just apply for the full amount.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I still would like to have somebody explain how that works. And I'm
Right.
sure the other OEMs are asking for guidance on this. You know, how does Tesla get this on a battery pack that's made in China when, you know, that was the rules? You know, if it was made in China, it wouldn't qualify.
So that puts it like the cheapest Tesla now after the tax credit is 32,700 something. So that's like
what a deal.
$32,740. That's such a great deal. Oh my God! If you can take advantage of the whole tax credit, I think, yeah, I couldn't.
Wow.
Which is why I went used. Partly why I
still.
went used instead of new myself. But
Look at that. That's such
What a deal.
yeah,
Hey,
and then
guys,
if you
it's hard for the money.
Ridiculous.
I have a friend who, a really good friend of mine who hates Tesla, hates Elon, hates the whole thing. Would never, you know, just one of those that
Sure.
just like, and that's cool. Like, I don't care. I like all that stuff, but you don't have to for us to be friends. It really doesn't bother me. But then he texted me, said, I actually ordered a Model 3 LFP because you cannot get a better car for the money. So here's someone who desperately wants to drive something else and is buying this because it's such a good value.
right. I mean,
I'm
I'm not a Elon fan by any stretch. Just people who know me, I think some of the things he does on Twitter is like despicable. But the company, you know, the vehicle, the company, you know, it's all good, you know, and you just can't ignore that. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I just noticed on the homepage that Tesla have, rather than it going straight to like buy a car, which it used to, and this might be old news by the way, but there's now this cool little video, and they're pushing demo drive. They're really pushing demo drive. Schedule a demo drive today. Click
That's
here.
the
Demo.
UK site.
That's the UK site, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Are you .com?
Hold
in your
on.
URL?
No, I'm logged into US.
Oh wow.
So
Cool.
that's new.
Seen that.
So they're really pushing like demo drive. So that's that. It's just, you know, it's interesting. People say, oh, Tesla don't do marketing, which is the most ridiculous thing in the world. They do plenty of
But
marketing.
they do marketing.
They just don't buy Super Bowl ads and buy
Right.
magazine,
They don't
you
buy
know,
TV commercials, but
one pages. But that's really interesting that that they're pushing, that they've gone away from the kind of the landing page was a buy now. The landing page is a drive. Oh, and then when I scroll down, then it's like that's the old order now. But even then, they've put demo drive next to it. Model 3, Model Y, demo drive. And maybe I find that interesting. But I find that interesting that they're encouraged. They've obviously got to a point where everyone who was going to buy one has bought one, and now they're into the next phase of, hey, come and try one. Which was, you know, 10 years ago, which was, hey, come and try one. So that's good.
right. All right. I'm not sure what else there is in the. There's just a couple of headlines I guess we can touch on real quick. Tesla Model S Plaid Track Pack takes back Nürburgring lap record, and then subsequently they sold out of the Track Pack for the Model S Plaid. So I guess they're given the Model S Plaid real brakes, which is good. And I'm not sure do you know what other add-ons are in that, Kyle?
Yep, it's brakes, wheels, tires, software, 200-mile-an-hour top speed. That's the one thing I want. I'm like, okay, that's the only way for my car to get the 200-mile-an-hour top speed upgrade is to buy all this stuff and then put back to what I have on there now, and then get the software. I know that a guy I follow on YouTube who watches our stuff too, is a friend of mine, does Nürburgring laps, and his Model S Plaid did that. He bought all the stuff, ripped it off, went back to the same setup I have. Just to get the top speed. And yeah, I mean, cool, awesome. And Porsche Taycan, the spicy one that's unreleased, maybe they'll call it a Turbo GT. I don't know. Sounds like it already broke this already, or it's about to. So the Porsche Tesla wars are heating up, which is great because the Germans need a kick in the butt on the electric side to get with the times, get Taycan up to Plaid levels. Taycan's an amazing car, but Tesla just like keeps innovating faster than Porsche, and it's time that Porsche kicks it into gear from an electric standpoint. They just announced future and electric hypercars, really cool. So I think Porsche is starting to get it. a huge believer in Porsche performance forever, and so I love that this is all happening here.
The Taycan's about to get a refresh, I believe, right? So
Yeah,
it's on a
this
J1
year.
platform now, and
Yeah.
I heard there was an upgraded J1 platform. Do you know anything about that?
It's not. I don't think it's going to be anything major. They're calling it J1.2, J1.2, and I think it's just going to be like facelifts, just like a little styling thing, and maybe some powertrain options. I don't know. I really I haven't heard any rumblings of something like crazy, but we have heard some rumors of a tri-motor Taycan, and it's going to be so expensive. It'll be 200 and something $1,000 if they do something like that.
Do you think they don't think the two-speed gearbox will go away?
Oh, I don't know. I hope it does. There's really no benefit to the end consumer with it.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, that would be a good opportunity to maybe it's even cheaper to manufacture without that, I would think.
Oh, they're not going to pass that on to consumers. This is Porsche.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing here is getting less expensive.
So Martin's pulled up, speaking of Porsche wants to own the ring with its new EV hypercar concept. So this is a concept in its sense that maybe they want to put it on Nürburgring, but they have no plans that we know of to build this. Actually, this is like their 75th anniversary thing. It's like to mark the 75th anniversary of the company. And I'm not sure if it's actually going to get made even as a one-off. I don't know. It'd be kind of nice to see because it's a pretty beautiful looking car. Martin, you like this thing?
Yeah, I like any kind of halo car that gets car people interested in electric cars. Same as Rimats. I like anything like this that moves things forward and changes the conversation around performance. And it's funny they're using the hypercar word because this weekend is Le Mans in about 24 hours time from now. Le Mans will be kicking off, and hypercar class is the top class of Le Mans racing now. As they bring the sort of the European and US categories together, and that's really interesting because they're racing everything from like 3-liter hybrids, 3.5-liter hybrids, all the way up to the Chevy, which is the 5.5-liter normally aspirated, all in the same class with some balance of performance stuff in there as well to try and equalize things out a little bit. So I like anything like this because there will become a time when electric cars will, the technology will improve and we'll just be going racing with these amazing electric things and or watching more electric racing, which is cool because Formula E and Extreme E and hasn't really lit my fire yet. Okay. So anything like this that is fast and interesting and is halo-y, and I don't know whether they're using the word hypercar or that was just in our headline, but yeah, I love stuff like this.
Right. Did you hear about the Caterham EV? Let's just tease. We didn't see an actual car yet. So Caterham is like maybe you can tell us what Caterham is.
Well, I'd say Caterham.
Yeah, Caterham.
There we go. Start with
what is Caterham?
Caterham. Excuse me.
So Caterhams are I think everything from you can build one yourself in your garage. To buying one off from the factory and sort of two-seater. The style being the little two-seater, little roll cage, big engine out in front of you. So very interesting to see how that goes EV, as everything will indeed go EV. Well, no, they don't have to because they're niche and they could stay burning stuff for the next 20 years and e-fuels and synthetics, and that would all be fine as well, by the way. So yeah, that I don't know anything more about apart from the silhouette that was shown off.
Yeah. And the last thing I think we should mention here is we had an article up on Inside EVs. Volkswagen America CEO says no price gouging on ID Buzz electro microbus. So that was a concern that we brought up last week, I believe, talking about the VW ID Buzz. Limited supply. Our dealer's going to mark it up and take this already kind of pricey Halo vehicle with all the options thrown at it right from the get-go. Is it going to, the dealer's going to throw out another 10 grand on top of that and make it out of reach for, a lot of people who really want it? I mean,
I'm
not sure what their options are. Really,
can they stop the dealers doing what dealers do? I mean, it's a different world to what we're used to. So that's just them's the rules that you if you want to go selling cars in the US and you're not selling direct, that's what you have to play by. So I'm not sure they can stop dealers doing what dealers do.
Right.
Yeah,
They
there's
seem-
nothing I can do.
but their sounds of they're very, we cannot have markups.
Tom was there when we talked to them. What's your impression, Tom?
I think they cannot stop markups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's things that you can do, like you can play the game and restrict stock and be like, well, this other dealer in the same city or whatever, we're going to give them 30 of this model, and you can play around at the edges with your relationship with dealers and restrict things, but
You can mark, but if you do it too overtly, the dealers can sue you.
oh,
If
really?
they can prove that you're withholding stock as a stick and you're doing this, like if they can really prove that, if you were getting 130 cars a month and they're mad at you because you're marking up cars, and all of a sudden you start getting 110 cars a month, and you can prove that the other dealers are getting their same allotments, like it's the laws in this country are so strict in favor of the dealers. The OEMs are powerless to control pricing like that. They have to really get creative, and that's why Ford, said we're going to start with a new sheet. Model E is a sub brand. It's almost like a franchise within Ford's franchise, and this is going to be the rules for this sub franchise. So that's really the way to do it. And Kyle mentioned when we were at the bus event, we were pushing them hard. I know I was pushing hard on that. I asked many follow-up questions, and it was just kind of like we just began the conversation. They literally said just today we began the conversation with our dealers. So,
wow.
Either they're fantastic negotiators and within a week they work this out and they know that they're not going to be marking it up, or they're very hopeful that it won't be that bad. But I don't know how they deal with that. It's free market. The dealers put their argument is, look, some of these cars we get stuck with for 8 months on our lot, and we're paying monthly interest on them and everything. And I lose $5,000-$6,000 on some of our cars. So now you're telling me I can't make an extra $5,000-$6,000 on a hot car. And I know consumers don't want to hear that. None of our, listeners want to hear that. I'm saying, that markups are fair game. And which is my position. The way it's currently marked, I think they're fair game. I think it's unfortunate, but I think unless there's some sort of a rule where they're set pricing and everyone pays the same thing, it's up to the individual dealer to set the price that they think is reasonable. Nobody needs a Volkswagen ID Buzz or a Volvo EX30. It's not water. It's not medical supplies. So, do I like markups? No, I don't like markups. I wish they didn't exist. But we have to rewrite the rules. If you want to eliminate markups, we need to rewrite the rules and have set pricing. There's not set pricing right now.
Right. Well, I think you killed it, Tom.
Before we go, I want to tell everybody, oops, this side. I have a new Charger review up, the Schumacher SEV 1600 series. They have 3 different units, pretty good unit. It did fairly well in my review. There were a couple fails, but did pretty well. It's interesting. The most interesting thing that I found about it is the connector holster. You can holster it from either side, which is kind of unique for these units. You could also holster it with the cap attached because
I like that.
Usually this is what locks onto the connector holster, but this has a little hanger here with this a divot inside the connector itself.
Tesla
And the
style.
connector also has LED lights built into the side, which is kind of cool. And here's another thing, which is kind of timely now with NACS maybe being used. You can actually put a Tesla adapter on it and still holster the
No way.
Ooh, look at that.
So that's the only connector holster for any EV charger that I've tested that you can holster it with a Tesla connector. With Tesla adapter on it. So that's
what's
pretty
the
cool.
price?
What's it? $649. It's a 50 amp unit. And that's an average price today for a 50 amp unit. And it failed. It had a couple fails. The cable's not a great cable. I couldn't get the app to work. It has an app. That's a pretty major fail. But connectors, a nice robust connector. It's a nice strong unit. It's a little bigger than what I like to see in a package, but it's not too big.
Right.
And that full review is up on State of Charge now if you guys want to check it out.
State of Charge. And you also this week put up your Volkswagen ID Buzz long wheelbase first look. So everyone's already seen Kyle's.
Don't look
video.
at mine. Go to look at Kyle's. Kyle
already
killed
looked
it
at
with that. I really just kind of did an intro and outro and then used B-roll and talked over it. It was like minimal effort. I had to at least report on ID Buzz.
I thought it was good.
But Kyle's video really killed it. That's probably the best one I've seen.
Kyle's video was great.
Internet.
Kyle's video is great, but your approach is like just so different. I find it refreshing. Just watch you and get like the straight facts and all that stuff.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't even going to mention it because it was like one of my least favorite videos that I've ever made. So
okay,
but it came out okay, I guess.
So and on your side, Kyle, this week you had you had your Volvo EX30 review, which is great, and you also had a small battery Volkswagen ID4 high range test, the 62 kilowatt hour rear-wheel drive at 70 miles an hour test. I don't know if you want to say anything about that or not. But,
not really. I also drove a Porsche Taycan GTS. Don't know if I spoke about.
I was going to get into that.
That's really all I wanted to touch on very briefly. It's the enthusiast choice. It's so fast in the canyons, the GTS trim of the Taycan. Unbelievable thermal management because they took the turbo drivetrain and downsized it. So yeah, I can get it hot, but like I was with two friends with Model 3 Performances, which have the best thermal management for performance. Both of their cars, the motor, the battery, smoked in the red. The Taycan happy in the middle. And granted, the Taycan has more performance, so I wasn't wide open throttle keeping up with them, and we weren't going crazy hard. But the fact is, at that speed, their cars overheated. Taycan had plenty of thermal longevity left. I then got in front of them and really romped on it for some time, and you can cover crazy distance in the Taycan GTS. I'll have a whole video, of course, coming, a buyer's guide on Taycan very soon. So that's really all I wanted to talk about.
Interesting though, it's not your choice for a track Taycan. For canyons, yes. Track, not so much.
Well, for track, I still think it is probably the better one. Just for daily driving, I wish it had the crazy power of a Plaid. It's something is so nice, just like putting some random passengers in your car and then just having a normal conversation and then wham, they're getting whiplash. The Taycan doesn't do that. So, yeah, I also, just love the Taycan, and they nailed it from the driving perspective. The GTS trim is wonderful, and love everything about that. But I also had been doing some things. I towed 1,100 miles, 1,200 miles towing with my Rivian this week, which has been interesting. Maybe we'll talk about that next week's show because I'll complete the 3,000-mile journey. I'm here to pick up my Coda, so that's happening.
Oh, okay. Also, you have a new Rivian roof rack thing that I want to talk about. Hopefully you put up a video this week of that.
Yeah, it's going to be really long. I don't expect anyone to watch it because it's just crazy, but I'll do a better one. This is like a whole installation process, and it's going to be for people who want the rack. And the rack is sick. It is so cool. It's called the Overland Rough Racks for Rivian. I did the roof with a giant light bar and a bed rack. It's
from Rivian?
No. It's from an aftermarket company called Overland Rough Racks. Here in I don't even know where I am. Where did the ID Buzz launch happen, Tom? Huntington Beach?
Huntington Beach.
That's where I am now. So I'm driving up to San Jose with the trailer and the truck because I towed my Leaf out here. But I'm driving. I left that with Patrick and Liv from Mach-E Vlog, and head up to pick this bad boy up.
Nice. So the Mach-E vlog is now the Mach-E/Nissan Leaf vlog.
That's right. So I told them they're going to have it indefinitely because I don't want to tow with my truck ever again.
I mean, they could drive it back to you.
Oh, no. It's
they get 6 months or something to spend on a road trip.
It probably will just stay out here and they can have it for as long as they want it, for as many years as they want it. I told them they can decorate it. So Liv's going to go and, she can do something crazy. It should be really fun. And it's going to get the onboard charger fixed. That's why it really came out here. Because Tony Williams at QC Charge says he'll swap that up for me. So that'll be cool. And now I'm just excited to get my Coda. Can't wait. Mach Leaf Vlog. There you go. That's going to be the name.
Mach Leaf Vlog. All right. So I guess probably. Oh, I got a notification this morning. My car has notified me that it needs a new 12-volt battery.
Yeah, it arrived right on schedule.
I didn't get any weird effects. No weirdness happened. I just got this thing this morning. I woke up and that's the first thing I saw. 12-volt battery must be replaced soon. Scheduled service. So I'm going to do that right after. But now I'm worried. Should I not drive it anywhere? Is it going to like fail on me as like
that's all right.
Go somewhere?
Don't stop worrying and start living. And you know what? If it dies, it'll make a great story.
It would make a good story.
Yeah, I guess. Okay.
Yeah. I love Happy Hippo. Schedule. What's wrong with schedule? That's how it's meant to be said because I'm English, British. Schedule. Not schedule. Schedule. No. I think I said schedule, and I think Happy Hippo in the comments loves the way that I say schedule. It's aluminium, not aluminum.
Right.
We can get into how to speak properly if you would like, but there we go.
The Volvo CEO.
I'm joking. I'm joking, by the way. My dear US viewers, I'm joking.
So I forgot to mention this. I wanted to mention this. The Volvo CEO did a little unboxing video for the EX30, which is great. I mean, I've never seen an automaker make such a great video like this before. It was awesome.
You enjoyed the unboxing video?
I did very much. I thought it was great, and I showed it to a friend of mine. They thought it was great, and they also had a great laugh at aluminium. He has a nice Scottish brogue, I think, going on there. Is that Scottish brogue, Martin?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, you didn't like
it? I haven't seen that video.
Okay.
I didn't tell me anything about the car.
It made me feel good about the car.
Okay.
Yeah.
Volvo's good at making you feel good about their products.
Right. I mean, that's part of this whole selling. It's not just here's like all these numbers and specs. There's a whole, unquantifiable thing that goes on with cars, emotional buying. You have to build that emotional attachment. I think they did that pretty well.
They've always done a great job. All their presentations have been wonderful over the years. I remember XC40 was like designed by women and everything was pink and it like had the purse holder and it was awesome. I was like, wow, that makes me really, want to support that car. That's so cool. They're always very good at that.
Right on. All right. So I guess that probably brings us to the end of our show. Excuse me. If I can do this without coughing. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them on the Inside EV's forum podcast thread or on our YouTube or Twitch comment sections. If you like the show, please give us a thumbs up if you're watching us on YouTube. Don't forget you can find and follow our panelists on Twitter. Follow Tom Mologney at Tomolog. That's with 2 M's. Martin Lee is at EV News Daily. And Kyle Connor is at It's Kyle Connor. And I'm at Dominic on Post.News and Spoutable. And what's going on?
I haven't changed it. I've left it.
Would you leave?
You got to get back on Twitter, Dom. The world is on Twitter.
Yeah,
You're
no,
just
I can't.
missing out. You're doing yourself a disservice.
I drew my line in the sand.
No, but it's doing yourself a disservice. You got to get on Twitter.
Yeah, I got some good engagement from Mastodon actually recently. I'm getting good engagement, some good numbers over there actually.
Nothing like Twitter. I'm sorry.
I know it's a different thing, but
no. All right.
I mean, we'll see if they can do some proper moderation or something. But click subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications. Thank you all very much for joining us. We'll see you all again next week. And really, it's great seeing you all this morning and doing this podcast thing. We do it like every Friday for the last few years, and I don't really ever say it, but I really appreciate having you guys on the air with me and doing this. It's like makes my Fridays.
It's good fun.
It's the best. And I really appreciate your involvement.
Coming up on the 200th show, right? Soon.
Oh, we must.
What are we at now?
Something 66.
166.
Okay.
166.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's not
266. I thought it was like 196. All right.
Oh no, not yet. No.
Yeah. All right. Well, strike that. All right.
So So thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you all again next week. Ciao.